Good afternoon. I'm Mahalia Joseph Wharton. This is TTT Talk City 91.1 FM and TTT Live Online. Government is to construct a licensing office in Guaico in Sangre Grande. Minister of Works and Transport Rohan Sinanan will officially turn the sod to begin construction works today. At this time, we take you to the Ministry of Works and Transport's office in Guaico, Sangre Grande, to that ceremony.
Thank you, Gabriella, and we ask that you remain standing for the prayer which will be offered by Kiffy Graves of the Ministry of Works.
Dear God, merciful and loving Supreme Being, through whom all things are made possible, we come before you today with hearts full of gratitude for the blessings you have bestowed upon us, and in particular for the commissioning of another project of the Ministry of Works and Transport. We ask for your covering and safety for every single person who will work on this project. May you shower upon them the just rewards for their commitment and energy expended in order to serve their fellow citizens. We ask you to continue to guide and protect the leadership as it executes the vision of the government and by extension the ministry. We ask you, Lord, to keep all who will come into contact with this project and its parts, and may you cause them to think and behave in the interest of safety, protection, and preservation of lives. May you bless us and bless our nation of Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you, Lord, for listening to our humble supplication.
Thank you, Kiffy. You may be seated. Senator the Honorable Rohan Sinanan, Minister of Works and Transport, the Honorable Camille Robinson-Regis, Minister of Planning and Development, Honorable Terence Dale-Singh, Minister of Health, Senator the Honorable Clarence Rambarat, Minister of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries, other Cabinet Ministers, Mrs. Glenda Jennings-Smith, Member of Parliament for Toco, Sangre Grande Region, Mrs. Danmati Ramdath, Deputy Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Works. Also from the Ministry of Works, Ms. Chandrani Jagrup, Deputy Permanent Secretary. Mr. Terry Rondon, Chairman of the Sangre Grande Regional Corporation. Welcome, sir. Mr. Stephen Gardner, our esteemed Deputy Chairman of NIDCO. Ms. Esther Famo, President of NIDCO. Mr. Jabari Kozier, General Manager of NIPDEC. Mr. Ricardo Mohammed, President of the Sangre Grande Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Clive Clark, who is also on the program, Director of Information Technology at the Ministry of Works. Officials of the Ministry of Works and Transport, executives and other guests from persons from NIDCO. Residents, we see you here in your numbers this afternoon. Specially invited guests, media or friends in the media. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you. I just wish to welcome you this afternoon. Today we have come together to witness the start of several new initiatives that will be starting right here in Sangre Grande. We'll be witnessing the concrete pouring for the construction of the new licensing office in Guaico, the launch of the traffic warden service in Sangre Grande, and we'll see our traffic wardens here in their numbers as well, the official opening of NIDCO's community outreach office, and this office will be serving residents who will be impacted by the construction of the Churchill-Roosevelt Highway to Manzanilla project. Now, each of these initiatives, ladies and gentlemen, are part of the plans to improve traffic and transportation system within this region. And they will also go towards supporting the wider government plans to establish Sangre Grande as, how do we say, Minister, the gateway to the eastern peninsula of the country. So we are eagerly waiting to see that happen. So we have on our program this afternoon a number of a number of notable speakers who will be coming to share their vision and also to give us some more information about the plans about these initiatives. So without any further ado, we invite Ms. Glenda Jennings-Smith, again MP for the Toco Sangre Grande region, to bring greetings. Can we welcome her, please?
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Senator the Honorable Rohan Sinanan, Minister of Works and Transport, the Honorable Camille Robinson-Regis, Minister of Planning and Development, the Honorable Terence Liansing, Minister of Health, Senator the Honorable Clarence Rambarat, Minister of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries, other cabinet members, Mrs. Dan Marty Ramdat, Deputy Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Works and Transport, Mr. Terry Rondon, Chairman, Sangre Grande Regional Corporation, Mrs. Elizabeth Wharton, Councillor Sangre Grande, Mrs. Simone Gill, Paul Mongolas, and other councillors present with us this afternoon, Mrs. Esther Farmer, President of NIDCO, Mr. Jabari Kozia, General Manager of NIPDEC, Mr. Ricardo Mohammed, President of the Sangre Grande Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Clive Clark, Director of Information Technology Unit, Ministry of Works and Transport, officials of the Ministry of Works and Transport, residents, specially invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. As your Member of Parliament, it gives me great joy to stand this afternoon and welcome you all to witness the Sod Turning of the Licensing Office, and I'm told it also is the commencement of the traffic wardens present in this area, Sangre Grande, as well as a NEDCO office to work alongside the commencement of all the great giant projects which are listed for commencement in these parts, Toco Sangre Grande. It is indeed a great occasion today, as it signals our government's intention to serve you and to deliver on our promises made in our manifesto in 2015. And today we are saying that we are getting the job done. And we are getting the job done magnificently. Because today, as you look around, you will see activities which signals the beginning of good times to people of Sangre Grande and the regions around. As I stand here this evening, I can only think about the benefits that could occur to us in Sangre Grande and our regions. As far as Beach, Rio Claro, Miaro, Toco, Matlat, you no longer have to travel to Arima to conduct business such as renewing your license. You no longer have to travel to Port of Spain to conduct further business as it relates to traffic management. To the police department, it means you no longer have to carry a car to Port of Spain to check the level of tints if you are doing roadblocks. So today it signals a great start as far as law enforcement is for traffic management. We know only too well how many accidents we have seen in these parts, in this stretch area where we have to have regular roadblocks and traffic blocks. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to personally thank the government of Trinidad and Tobago, the Minister of Works for his vision in these parts. As you know, the Minister of Works is also a son of the soil, and it is your vision and your ministry's vision to deliver to us the goods that we really care about. In these parts, we know how unemployment is very high. It is difficult for persons to travel long distance. And this very project, this initiative, will go a long way in serving many of our constituents, both here and nearline areas. So ladies and gentlemen, I too am anxious to listen to the other speakers as they deliver to us this evening what is in store for us. At the end of it, we will all realize the benefits and what it entails. This start point today, and as you notice, the document that was given to you, it speaks about opening the gateway to the eastern counties. Opening the gateways to the eastern counties of Toco, Matlat, Sanssouci, Grand Riviere, Sangre Grande, Manzanillo, Miaro, Rio Claro. We are to be proud of that today, and as your member of parliament, I stand proud as the recipient of something which I have been lobbying for quite a long time. And I want to again compliment the Minister of Works for coming to our rescue and delivering this particular product on time. So thank you very much again.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jenninson. Now, doesn't it sound like an exciting time to be a resident in Sangre Grande? Thank you so much for your delivery. At this time, we want to invite Mr. Ricardo Mohammed, the president of the Sangre Grande Chamber of Commerce, to also bring some greetings. But before, as Mr. Mohammed arrives, we just want to acknowledge the presence of Senator the Honorable Kazim Hussain. Yes, Minister, very important minister at this point in time, Minister of Rural Development and Local Government. And we also want to recognize a new Deputy Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Works, Ms. Charmaine Jennings. Mr. Mohammed.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Senator, the Honorable Rohan Sinanan, Minister of Works and Transport, the Honorable Camille Robinson, Minister of Planning and Development, the Honorable Terence Dialsing, Minister of Health, Senator, the Honorable Clarence Rambarat, Minister of Agriculture, Lands and Fisheries, Minister of Local Government, other cabinet members, Mrs. Glenda Jennings-Smith, Member of Parliament, Toco Sangre Grande, Mrs. Danmati Ramdat, Deputy Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Works and Transport, Mr. Terry Rondon, Chairman of Sangre Grande Regional Corporation, councillors, officials of the Ministry of Works and Transport, specially invited guests, chairpersons for today's proceedings, all in attendance, good afternoon. The Sangre Grande Chamber of Commerce is most excited to be present here today at such a historic occasion. One where we welcome, on behalf of the persons of this region, such developments as we are here to bear witness to. We are all very much aware that the Sangre Grande and the eastern region are poised for development. And we are fortunate in this instance to have a son of the soil in our Senator and Minister of Works and Transport, the Honorable Rohan Sinanan, whose passion for the development of the East can be seen from the moment he took office. Minister, we thank you for the resurfaced roads and pavements through Sangre Grande, and we hope to see continued work of such nature in our surrounding communities. Great appreciation and acknowledgments must be given to our Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Keith Rowley, and his government, keen interest and projected plans of infrastructure and institutional designs for this region. The Sangre Grande Chamber welcomes recent projects such as the Churchill Roosevelt Highway Extension, the Toco Main Road Expansion, and of course, the Toco Port as infrastructural foundations for development and access to the East projects that will give accessibility to agricultural lands and hidden tourist destinations. Beginning with our new Sangre Grande Hospital, a long-awaited commodity, and now this Guaico Licensing Office, and NEDCO's Outreach Office, we recognize as designs and projections that will increase growth in the commerce via accessibility to government services within this region. The Sangre Grande Chamber of Commerce acknowledges the authors of these strategic development designs and services, much of which are needed and many of which we look forward to. Sangre Grande's inclusion in the national development of our country is warranted and timely. We look forward to working with you in the development in the future for a parkade in the town's city center, an arts and cultural development tower building, and increase in equality controls for our nation's projects. As the Sangre Grande Chamber of Commerce looks forward to continue work with the government, we stand in service to building our nation together. All our ministers today, Sangre Grande says, thank you. Honorable Minister of Works and Transport, we say thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of Sangre Grande, thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Mohammed. Now, the Chamber of Commerce and indeed the business community within Sangre Grande have been one of the early supporters of the developmental projects that we have in the area. So we do appreciate the business community working as partner with the ministry, with the government, to ensure the economic development and social progress within the region. In addition to the business community, recently we went about the community to get a sense, a pulse as to what the community, how the community felt about the new developments. So straight from the mouth of the residents, we have put a video together, a video presentation dubbed Sangre Grande Speaks, just to give you an idea as to what residents are thinking. Immediately following the presentation, the video presentation, we'll have a presentation by Mr. Clive Clark from the Ministry of Works. Now, the Ministry of Works has been doing some fantastic work in modernizing the transportation division, so he's coming to share a little of that with you immediately after the video. So at this point in time, we can proceed with the presentation. Sangre Grande Speaks.
So we are very, very appreciative that at last Sangre Grande is being paid attention to. As a past chamber president, I've been advocating for this for years and years and years and years. So our kudos to the minister, Mr. Rohan Sinanan, for coming to our rescue.
I appreciate that they paid attention to small, big girl Sangre Grande, and they decided to do something about our needs and payments.
So we are very thankful for the smooth road for once, for the first time in many, many years.
We appreciate the upliftment of the pavement and the road, because before it was terrible. You know, and we really appreciate what you all have done now.
I feel happy, right? Because if the roads are bad, everything else will be high in the country. So it benefits us in the long run.
The Honorable Rohan Sinanan, Minister of Works and Transport, other members of Cabinet, all protocol observed. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Allow me to commence by expressing my sincere gratitude to the Ministry for the opportunity to report to you on the work we have been quietly and diligently pursuing in order to bring total transformation to the licensing division. In order to speak of what we have achieved thus far in preparation for this massive transformation process, allow me also to step back a bit to remind you of some of the challenges that we all face each time we visit the licensing authority to conduct simple transactions, coupled with the number of incremental improvements made over recent times. Under the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act 4850, along with its corresponding regulations, the licensing authority is primarily charged with the responsibility for the registration and inspection of all motor vehicles and for the issue of driver's permit and such other related matters. We need to keep that in mind. Over the years, the organization has conducted most of its business via a number of complex manual systems and partial computerized systems, where connectivity amongst its sites and other agencies were completely disjointed and in many cases non-existent. In addition, a number of operational deficiencies resulted in duplication of efforts and a greater demand for staff in both the clerical and technical arms of the organization. In most cases, fulfilling the demand for staffing was not always forthcoming or timely in order to treat with the demand for service. With a vehicle population of just over 1 million registered vehicles, 700,000 driver's permits, and a number of day-to-day transactions, the licensing division, as we know, has not kept up to date with the growing demands for its services. It is mindful to note that several attempts in the past were made, spanning from the 1970s to 2009, to modernize the division by both foreign and local entities. These efforts, for some reason or the other, either failed or brought little relief to no relief to our citizens. We must bear in mind that failed systems, weak business processes, poor data records management systems without adequate audit trails are all recipes for inefficiencies and unethical behavior in any organization. As citizens, we are all familiar with these historical inefficiencies, such as poor delivery of services, questionable transactions, coupled with allegation of corruption, and in many cases, criminal prosecutions of both members of staff and customers. The problem in the licensing division requires strong and determined leadership to confront and to eradicate the ills. It requires visionary leadership that is prepared to do the groundwork of sustainable transformation, embracing modern ICT solutions and fostering a work culture among staff that pride itself on accountability and transparency. Our roadmap to success. Honorable Minister of Works and Transport, Permanent Secretary, Management of the Ministry, along with a number of diligent and committed staff of the Licensing Authority, have all embarked on the journey of modernization and transformation of the division over the last 4 years. The Ministry has always been mindful that key changes must be made in 5 fundamental areas to bring about these lasting changes. These areas are: 1, the technological architecture, connectivity, critical, business process modernization and business process reengineering. Data architecture. 2, data centralization is critical, data validation and system integration. 3, organization architecture, the ideal HR structure, training, appraisals. These things are necessary in order to have a successful entity. Security architecture, audit trails, transparency and accessibility. And I must stress on audit trails. You know, when I look at what is happening today in the media, I must say, thank God for the minor changes we have made, that we were able to identify certain ills by name and nature within our current environment. And most of all, legal architecture, introducing new traffic laws that require modernized ICT solutions for implementation. In recent times, the ministry has implemented a number of key ICT initiatives towards a holistic revamping of the operational procedures of the licensing division. Some of these initiatives have resulted in full connectivity of all the licensing offices over a robust, redundant network powered by key reputable agencies such as iGov-TT, TSTT, Cable and Wireless, and Marcy Infocom. This afforded the ministry the opportunity to revamp its digitization exercise for both driver's permit and vehicle records. Currently, the digitization exercise is approximately 85% completed and is on schedule for full completion by the end of February 2020. In order to enhance business efficiency, the ministry has since migrated all driver's permit and vehicle records to a secure data center, thus providing centralized access to all licensing sites over its robust network. Ladies and gentlemen, these two simple initiatives have since opened a door for further business improvements, which the ministry has already capitalized on. 35 copies, we are all familiar with that and with that process. Through these efforts, the ministry was successful in decentralizing the production of certified copies in both Trinidad and Tobago. No longer do citizens have to endure having to request a certified copy in Tobago or in South Trinidad or in East Trinidad and have that request routed to one location for printing. Certified copies are now available at 4 to 5 sites within the licensing division. Similarly, access to the driver's permit system provided the licensing authority the opportunity to implement a new driver's permit with machine-readable and state-of-the-art security features, therefore paving the way for modern improved services. Online services. Ladies and gentlemen, due to the results of this simple initiative, the ministry was able to launch its first wave of online services to the public. Citizens can now access their vehicle records and driver's permit records through an online portal on the ministry's website for the purpose of data validation. Currently, the ministry receives approximately 8,000 hits per month over this online system. This means over 8,000 transactions were conducted without the user having to visit a licensing office to join the long line. Through this system, a number of customers were able to raise legitimate concerns with the authority regarding the integrity of their records and thereby resulting in the correction of data. It is important to note that while the ministry continues with its effort to improve services via the use of technology, we are mindful that there are apparent loopholes which, if not managed properly, can result in possible exploitation of customers by both internal and external stakeholders. Citizens whose vehicle and driver's permit records are not digitized and properly updated are sometimes made to wait a longer time for service. And as mentioned earlier, if not properly managed, these citizens can be exposed to exploitation. Management of the ministry is very mindful of this and has taken the necessary steps so as to fast-track the digitization process of all records and to safeguard our citizens. Ladies and gentlemen, the ministry will soon be implementing a number of legislative reforms, which is expected to positively change the behavior of motorists and increase safety on the nation's roads. We are all familiar with these new legislative initiatives, which will see the implementation of a new demerit point system, red light camera enforcement, and a new fixed penalty trafficking system. It is important to note that these systems are fully dependent on data emanating from the licensing authority, and therefore, in order for their successful and seamless implementation, it cannot be business as usual at the licensing authority. These laws will be proclaimed at the dawn of 2020, and preparation for their full implementation has driven major technical changes in the licensing division. Vision 2030 clearly defines a number of reasonable outcomes and outputs, which must be achieved by year 2020. Key to these outcomes and outputs is delivering good governance and service excellence. And toward this end, the ministry is mindful of the goal which states the public service must have modern, effective, and efficient management systems. We at the ministry are proud to say that the plan to modernize the licensing division incorporates and supports government's Vision 2030 required outcomes and outputs, as well as the vision of the National ICT Plan, which promotes transformational government, where ministries and agencies in Trinidad and Tobago are required to deploy ICT to transform operations to state where digital becomes the default. With this in mind, and in our relentless effort to modernize and transform the licensing division in Trinidad and Tobago, I will now outline a number of new upcoming initiatives along with their respective timelines for full implementation. Establishment of a traffic enforcement center. A brand new traffic enforcement center was established and staffed in September of this year. This center will be responsible for assisting the Transport Commissioner in administering the new demerit point system, red light camera enforcement system, spot speed camera enforcement, and the reformed fixed penalty ticketing system. The staff is highly qualified and was recruited after a rigid security vetting process, inclusive of polygraph testing. Modernization of the vehicle registration system. Be mindful, the ministry will soon be upgrading its vehicle registration process to allow for direct integration with Trinidad and Tobago Custom ASICODA database, therefore providing the opportunity for real-time validation of documents. It is not a good business practice to perform data validation by physically moving documents from one state agency to another. This in itself can expose documents to further fraudulent practices and increase inefficiency. We must embrace technology, otherwise we will become irrelevant and inefficient. Car dealers will soon have the opportunity to upload key documents for registration via an online portal, which will facilitate an electronic pre-registration approval process, allowing for greater transparency and accountability. The ministry intends to have this system fully implemented by March of 2020, while the electronic ASICODA validation is expected to take effect during the month of January 2020. Modernization of driver's permit system. The ministry recognized the need to modernize the driver's permit system, especially where the new fixed penalty ticketing system carries with it penalties related to sanctions and demerit points on the records of errant drivers. This new system will provide opportunity for online application for learner's permit, online scheduling for regulation and driving tests, computerized exam with secure access. You'll need to enter a PIN or a biometric code before you write that exam, so you must be present. GPS plotting of vehicles used for driving tests. We plan to put GPS device so we can plot where that vehicle go while you perform your driving test. Online renewal processing for driver's permit. The ministry intends to have this system fully implemented by May 2020. However, incremental implementation will commence as early as February 2020 via the use of online scheduling for regulations and driving tests. Modernization of the electronic vehicle inspection system. Private garages and the ministry's inspection station will as early as January 2020 conduct vehicle inspection via the use of an electronic handheld device which connects directly to the ministry vehicle registration database. This system will also introduce the use of machine-readable secure inspection stickers, thus making enforcement much easier for law enforcement officers as well as the mitigation of corrupt practices. Training for garage owners is expected to commence in December 2019. Online certified copy requests and delivery system. Pay close attention here. The ministry intends to launch its online certified copy request system by March 2020 by partnering with other state agencies like TT Post and TT Connect. This system will allow citizens the opportunity to request and pay for a certified copy online. Have the copy delivered by TT Post courier to a place of choice, either your workplace or at the TT Connect Center or at your home. Electronic point of sale. The licensing division will soon be replacing its standalone cash register system with an electronic point of sale system. While this may appear to be a simple initiative, this will open the door for a suite of services, thus allowing the opportunity for different methods of payment, both on-site and off-site. The system will allow for implementation of an electronic cash book, higher availability of cashiers, expansion of electronic payments, and introduction of payment via the use of an on-site kiosk. You may not have to wait in the event a cashier is not available. Rollout of this new system pay careful attention, rollout of this new system commenced on Friday, November 6th, last week, 2019, and is due for full deployment by March 2020. Secure motor vehicle number plate. The ministry is very mindful of the risk we face due to the inefficient and ineffective number plate system currently used. What is needed is a more secure plate along with a proper management system so as to avoid duplication and ease of replication. The ministry will soon be implementing a new number plate system fully compliant with leading ISO and DIN standards. This number plate will include high security validation hologram, retroreflective material, embedded RFID chip, high security alphanumeric fonts, hidden watermarks, and laser engraved 2D code. It is also worthy to note that the new plate will also provide an opportunity for an additional revenue stream via the introduction of specialized sequential number as well as personalized number plate. More importantly, this new system will also assist in our crime fighting exercise. Introduction of mobile services. The ministry is mindful of the challenges faced by so many of our citizens who reside in rural communities like Toco, Matlat, Manzalina, Rio Claro, Cedros, Moruga, just to name a few, Charlottesville, who are required to travel long distances in order to receive service from the licensing division. Because of our existing ICT platform, we have established in 2019. In the year 2020, the ministry intends to launch a mobile service unit which will carry out scheduled visits to rural communities and villages. Citizens who reside in these communities will now have hassle-free access to several services without having to travel lengthy distances to visit an office. The mobile unit will be fully equipped with all necessary technological tools and consumables to allow for printing of certified copies, processing of learner's permits, renewal of driver's permit, regulation tests for all driver's permit classes, renewal of taxi badges. Last but not least, I am pleased to say, given the current ICT infrastructure that now exists, a number of services you can simply apply at this current new licensing office site to be built in Sangre Grande. It will be easy for us to basically deploy such services similar to what we have at our head offices. Sangre Grande office will see the benefit of applying for learner's permit at this site, renewing driver's permit, performing regulation tests, applying for certified copies, conducting transfers, applying for renewal of taxi badge. These are just some of the services you will benefit from this location when we have completed our effort with the new licensing site. I also noted when I look around, I must say, the opportunity also lends itself to inspection for both taxis and heavy vehicles, even at this very compound. In closing, ladies and gentlemen, we at the Ministry of Works and Transport are determined and steadfast in our cause to transform the licensing division in Trinidad and Tobago. It is not an easy task. By the grace of God, we will get the work done. Rest assured, in the not too distant future, the licensing authority will soon be recognized as a national leader through the use of its reform processes and policies, through legal reforms, through its revamps, morals, and most importantly, through the use of sophisticated and secure systems in service to the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. I thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that... Thank you, Mr. Rondon, ever the gracious host. I believe Mr. Clark and the ministry deserve another round of applause, because the way that they're embracing technology within the ministry, it is fantastic. You actually feel like you are a part of this first world country. So it's excellent, and we look forward. I am particularly excited about the idea of being able to pick up my certified copy from regardless of the location, because I remember when I was buying my first vehicle in Trinidad, it was bought in San Fernando. And I went to Wrightson Road to pick up my certified copy, and I was graciously informed that I had to go back to San Fernando. So this is a welcome change. The whole idea of being able to renew your license online, fantastic idea. Thank you so much for your innovation. We'd also like to recognize Mr. Randall Mitchell, who has just arrived, Minister of not Housing, Minister of Tourism. Welcome, sir. At this point in time, we invite Mr. Terence Dale Singh, Minister of Health and Member of Parliament for St. Joseph, to bring some remarks. Can we welcome him, please?
Ooh, look at people. I realized the crowd was so big. Good afternoon, all. Huh? No, St. Joseph, the crowd is bigger than this. I'm telling you, you fight. Mr. Terry Rondon, Chairman of the Sangre Grande Regional Corporation. Mrs. Glenda Jennings-Smith, Member of Parliament for Toco, Sangre Grande. On behalf of all your colleagues here, I want to welcome you to Sangre Grande this afternoon. Hope you enjoy your stay in Sangre Grande. You're welcome, sir. Mr. Rohan Sinanan, Minister of Works and Transport. My leader in the House, Mrs. Camille Robertson-Regis, Member of Parliament for Aruka Maloney, who won the prize for second or third? Third. You need to come first next time. And Minister of Planning and Development. Sangre Grande came first. Well done. Senator Clarence Rambarat, Minister of Agriculture, Lands and Fisheries. Haji, Senator Kazim Hussein, Minister of Rural Development and Local Government. Mr. Randall Mitchell, Member of Parliament for San Fernando East and Minister of Tourism. Councillors all, President of NITCO, Ms. Esther Farmer, Deputy Chair of NITCO, Mr. Stephen Gardner, Mr. Jabari Kozier, Acting GM, NIBDEC, DPSs of the Ministry of Works and Transport, Ms. Danmati Ramdaf, and someone who was stolen from the Ministry of Health, Sharmi Jennings. He was stolen in the dead of night. Never forgive you for not telling me you were leaving. Mr. Ricardo Mohammed, President of the Sangre Grande Chamber of Commerce. Beautiful residents of Sangre Grande. Let me hear it for you all. The beautiful residents of Sangre Grande. Members of the media, Mr. Clive Clark, thank you for your very comprehensive report. Director of IT at the Ministry of Works and Transport. And I also want to recognize my dear old friend. And this person, I came to ask for advice as to how to get into politics. And that person is my dear friend, Indra Sinanan Oja Maharaj, who advised me what to do to get into politics, and former MP for Toco, Sangre Grande. We must never forget those who have served and those who have gone before. I also want to recognize other officials from the Ministry of Works and Transport. Is 9-year-old Gabriela still here? No. If she is not here, I want to dedicate my presentation to 9-year-old Gabriela. Question is why? It is said if you don't have a vision, any road will take you there. You must have a vision. Because if you don't know where you want to go, where you want to be and by when, then any road will take you anywhere. You may end up in a forest, fall over a cliff. Dr. Keith Rowley, when in opposition, when he was traveling the country, clearly outlined a vision for the Eastern Seaboard. And he said in opposition, we have to develop the Eastern Seaboard. It is the most socio-economically underdeveloped part of Trinidad and Tobago. He is recently talking about a new society. What we are doing here today is not to launch a building, not to launch a program, but to take the Eastern Seaboard everywhere from Toco and Matlot all the way down to Manzanilla, Guayari, and bring this part of the country firmly into the 21st century. And your flyers aptly stated, it is going to be what? The next city. So Sangre Grande, according to your promotional material, has to be the next city. So people like 9-year-old Gabriela, by the time she is 12 years old, and I'm telling everyone here today, because I'm going to talk about the new Sangre Grande Hospital, which is going to finish sometime in 2022. She is going to be 12 years old then. I want her there in 2022 playing the national anthem. Because we are doing this for her. I see another young child here. How old is this child? 5. What we are doing here today is for the next generation. So the port in Toco, the roads, even though people took us to court for the roads to block it, because there are those who don't want you to be developed. We had to go to the Privy Council, and I'm sure Senator Sinanan may speak about that. But the vision that Dr. Rowley had in opposition, you are now seeing it bear wonderful, juicy, succulent fruits for all of his children to partake of. I am going to put the health agenda into the context of this massive development that is taking place in Sangre Grande. You know we are going to build a new hospital in Sangre Grande. But before we go there, we can't leave the old hospital the way we found it. The old hospital, when we came into office, the CT scanner was down for a year. It was down for a year, Terry, you know that. I remember getting calls from Terry in early 2015. We need CTs. We had to send people from Grande to Mount Hope. So whilst we found the money to build you a new hospital, we had to shore up the old hospital. And what have we done? We have spent $48 million via the PSIP. And I want to thank the Honorable Minister of Planning and Development, because the Minister approves the PSIP, and the Honorable Minister is in charge of Vision 2030. So this is a collaborative effort. What did we do with that 48 million? We refurbished wards 1 to 6. We put in 24 new extra beds. We're updating your lab right now as we speak. The cooks in Sangre Grande have a brand new kitchen. When I walked in there in 2016, I was ashamed of the kitchen. And Terry, you know that. I think you were with me. We were ashamed of the kitchen. We opened earlier this year a brand new CT suite, not a scanner, you know, a suite. If you see it, first world for the people of Sangre Grande. You are getting 12 more new dialysis chairs very soon. We are doing this because the health burden that you face needs treatment. And this government prioritized Sangre Grande and not Cuba. Because I can't send you Cuba for dialysis. I can't send you Cuba to CT. our priorities are your priorities. Having said that, as we develop roads, as we build a new port, as we explode this part of the country to development and to increase the socio-economic activity, you need a new hospital. The old hospital grew up and evolved like a maze. You know what a maze is? You put a rat into a maze and it doesn't know where to go. It was like a maze. The traffic flow was amazing. Amazingly difficult. Nothing was centralized. You had this here, you had that there. You had to walk for this here, you had to walk for that there. So what we are doing now, we are incorporating the new Sangre Grande Enhanced Health Center, which we opened last year, together with a new hospital in a campus-style setting, a campus like a university. It will be one massive compound. Your new hospital, which you so richly deserve in this part of the country, initially is going to have 106 beds. But we are going to build it in a modular fashion, meaning it is designed and initially constructed so that you could add another 50 beds, another 100 beds. It's modular. It doesn't mean that what we put down between now and 2020 is the end of it. It is built for your further development as your population grows and as we get more and more income coming in. But we are starting with a 106 bed facility. It's going to be a modern 3-story building. Just as we are having modern traffic wardens, modern port, modern road, it is going to be modern because you in Sangre Grande deserve nothing but the best. So what is this best we are going to be offering you? For the first time in Sangre Grande, you are going to have your own MRI machine. So you no longer have to go where? To Mount Hope. You will have, for the first time in the history of medical care in Sangre Grande, a new MRI machine. So we can take more detailed scans of you, in addition to CT machines. You will have a new orthopedic wing, new surgical areas, new occupational health, new intensive care areas. But in the same way we spent, I believe I said, $48 million to upgrade the old facility. What is this government investing in your health in Sangre Grande with this new hospital? We are investing a grand total of just under $1 billion TT dollars. $1 billion TT dollars to give you a brand new modular hospital that is being constructed for future expansion. So we start off with 106 beds. As conditions improve, as the economy improves, as your needs increase, we can modularly add on another 50 beds, then another 50 beds, and hopefully get up at the end to about 200 beds. That's the vision. That's the vision. That's the new society that the political leader and Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago has for each and every one of you. From 5-year-old, what's your name, sweetheart? What's her name? Korea. Loria. From 5-year-old Loria sitting around right there with mommy and daddy. Assalamu alaikum. To 9-year-old Gabriela. So when they become adults, when they have their families, they can look back on this day, which they will forget. But the parents could look back on this day and say, this is the day. This is the day we must give thanks for, because this was the day that Sangre Grande came to the front of the line. To the front of the line for development. To the front of the line for better health care. To the front of the line for better infrastructure. And to the front of the line to take part in Dr. Keith Rowley's vision for a new society. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been an absolute pleasure and delight sharing these few moments with you. I look forward to hopefully going on a walk with you all this evening, even though I have the flu. I will try to walk a half a mile. Rohan, how long are we walking for? 3 miles. I'm giving you a half a mile this evening, because I'm really feeling sick. But it has been an absolute delight to be here with all of you wonderful citizens of the next city of Trinidad and Tobago, Sangre Grande. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. Again, exciting times to be living, to be resident in Sangre Grande. So we look forward to all the developments in the health services for the residents here. At this time, we want to ask the driver of the vehicle PDS 348 to immediately remove your vehicle. There's someone who is ill who must get to the hospital right now. PDS 348. All right, thank you again, Minister. And at this time, we know that the use of lands and the marine facilities is one of the areas, one of the industries that will be developed as a part of the grander development of the Sangre Grande region. So this afternoon, we have with us the Minister of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries, Senator the Honorable Clarence Rambarat, who is going to share with us the plans that we have for the development in his sector. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My big sister, Minister of Planning and Development, Camille Robinson Regis, and these gentlemen who I work with, and they all know their names. I want to get down to the business very quickly. When I was growing up, they told me in Rio Claro, be kind to your hosts. And up until a few minutes ago, I really believed in that. And then I was presented with this. Sangre Grande, the next city. Well, let me make a small change to that for you. Sangre Grande, the next city after Shogunas. I promise that when I'm finished doing the business in 2020, I would not keep you waiting long, Sangre Grande. You would not be far behind me. I'm very happy to be here in Sangre Grande, very happy to be here with you, and very happy for what I've seen and heard. I'll tell you this, I'm not a squatter or a visitor. My grandfather is actually from Sangre Grande. I'm part of the Dubé family from Sangre Grande. So that it's not a stranger keeping you back as becoming a city. It's a member of your family just asking you to wait in line. A few weeks ago, my colleagues, Senator Kazim Hussain, Minister of Rural Development and Local Government, and my colleague and the star of today's show, obviously, Senator Rohan Sinanan, Minister of Works and Transport, we were at a session for the 139 local government candidates presented this year by the People's National Movement. And when my opportunity came to speak, I told those mainly young candidates that it appeared not to be an accident that these were the three ministers in the room. Because we have one thing in common. All three of us are from rural communities. I listened to Senator Hussain last night in San Fernando. Lane claimed to be a San Fernando boy. Well, I know better. The Hussain roots are deeply embedded in the community of Rio Claro, and we claim Senator Hussain as one of us. But when you come from a rural community, you see the world in a very, very different way. For example, I remember the 2015 campaign saying to my colleague and future MP Stuart Young, You could walk around your constituency in a lunchtime. When I enter Mayaro at Kanaham, it takes me 2 hours before I exit by the Pool River. And it's really a challenge for anybody representing Toco, Sangre Grande, Komoto, Manzanilla, Mayaro, Moruga. It's basically 1/3 the country. And in our communities, we know that there are 3 constraints to our lives. When I talk about education, for example, I make the point that in these parts of Trinidad, there is no shortage of natural brilliance, motivation, and family support. But the number one constraint to education in Toco, Sangre Grande, Komoto, Manzanilla, and Mayaro is this issue of transport. You see, when you're in Port of Spain, and you get leave behind outside QRC, you have everything from buses, to maxi, to taxi, to PH passing in front of you. But when you have to come to Sangre Grande, last bus is kind of early. When you have to go to Mayaro, last piece of transport is still in daylight. So roads and transportation opportunities are vital to rural communities. And those politicians who pound the idea of a roadway and a major roadway to Toco live in a different world from where we live. I want to share something that many of you don't think about. When I was named as the People's National Movement's candidate for Chaguanas East, I anticipated that persons in the opposition will say Clarence doesn't live there. And I was ready for the answer, and I've not gotten the opportunity to give the answer. But I'll give you it now. On the opposition benches, of the 18 members of parliament, I believe only one, Rushton Parry, lives in his constituency. So many of them represent places where they don't go and where they don't know. David Lee can lay no claim to understanding Pointe-a-Pierre. And Rodney Charles knows nothing about Naparima. But we know, because in our party and in the composition of our cabinet, our Prime Minister, Dr. Rowley, made sure that not only were rural people properly represented around the table, but a minister was given the responsibility for rural development. And you may think of it as nothing, but when you come from these parts, these things mean a lot. The second biggest constraint is the availability of services. There was a time in the early People's National Movement governments that previous prime ministers and cabinets made sure that places like Grande had a Ministry of Works, Rio Claro had a Ministry of Works, Mayaro had a sub-office for works. But I'll tell you this, you would not know. If Victor Campbell had not spent 10 years as Minister of Works, the Member of Parliament for 25 years for Mayaro, none of that would have happened. Because the Port of Spain-centric cabinet would not have thought about putting government services across rural communities. But it is vital. And as the populations have grown, it became more and more important that we put services very close to our community. In fact, that is at the heart of local government reform. For those who are calling for this bill and this bill and this reform and this reform, People's National Movement has made the reform something that is real. And building a new building in Sangre Grande to house something as important as licensing services is part of reform. And it's part of service reform. And it's part of bringing services closer into rural communities. And the third area that is important for rural communities is this thing called opportunity. And I tell my colleagues a lot of times If you are a young boy or a young girl growing up in Port of Spain, Lavantil, Morva, Barataria, Sawa, you have a chance at a minimum to go in a bookstore and work, to go in a fabric store and work. But when you're in Rio Claro and you have one bookstore and one shoe store and two pharmacy, there's only so many opportunities that could be created there. And look at what is happening right there. Jobs are being created. Opportunities are being created. And the more we spend and the more we develop our rural communities, the more opportunities that are going to be created. But if you are a member of parliament living in Gulfview and representing a constituency in Oropuch, these things mean nothing to you. There's a big disconnect. If you are Ramona Ramdial and representing a constituency that includes Cali Bay and Orange Valley, and you live in by the golf course in Trinity, you are totally detached from these things. You're not seeing your constituents and you don't know the things that are required to change their lives forever. But we know, I certainly know, and my colleagues from rural communities certainly know. Very few people take into consideration that every project in this country requires the input of the Ministry of Land, the portion of the ministry that is land. On the seabed, a lot of people don't know. There is no oil and gas project that takes place in this country without the involvement of our people in the land part of the ministry. The Commissioner of State Lands has responsibility for everything that is rested, laid, or connected on the seabed in this country. And across ministries for every project, whether it is Minister Dial Singh's new health facility in Diego Martin, his health facility in Sangre Grande. Recently, I had to get involved finally to clean up a massive land mess that was left with the construction of the Couva Hospital. We are involved in everything, but I want to tell you this. The big difference and the thing that people are not paying attention to is this. No matter how many times we tell you, it is not the method in which the contract for the construction of Point 14 was engaged in. That is not the biggest problem. And it is not the problems associated with the contractor and the contract. The biggest problem has been land acquisition on that project. A lot of times we watch the money that is spent in steel and material and contractors, but we're not watching the amount of money we spend on land. And I want to pay tribute to my colleague, Rohan Sinanan. I've heard them associate his name with land a lot of times. And much of it is fabricated. And we know they're good at that. But I want to say thank God that Rohan Sinanan owns quite a few parcels of land in this country. Thank God. Because he could tell you what costs 50 cents a square foot and what costs $500 a square foot. And it is only because of his acumen with numbers, his experience with land, and his understanding of this country that he's been able to ensure that every single project undertaken under his watch, the greatest attention has been paid to the matter of acquisition. On the QREP interchange project, for example, and I believe on every project he's been associated with, he has made available through our ministry the opportunity for the exchange of land, recognizing the financial constraints of having to pay for land. Because you don't know. You don't know. When the government acquires the land, you're in line for a good 30 years waiting for your money, You're in line for long. So that not only have we offered the opportunity for people to restart their life through the exchange of land, but we've paid considerable attention to the acquisition of land at the right price for both the person whose land is being taken and the taxpayer who must saddle that burden going down the road. And that is not strange. People talk about the difficulties in the country, and they're not seeing things happen as fast as they want to see. But when we came in, the Honorable Prime Minister said to the country, we have to do more with less. And when I made my contribution in the budget debate in the Senate, I told the opposition, I said a lot of what you say costs money, but at no time you say where the money will come from. And I use the example of Petrotrin, for example. Knowing that we had about $7 billion in borrowing due this year and next year, everybody wanted us to leave Petrotrin as it was. And nobody was saying where the payments Petrotrin had to make would come from. But this government has been very realistic. Reduced revenues, significantly reduced revenues, meant having to do more using less resources. This year, the Prime Minister opened the year with a very simple expression: mind your own business. In other words, watch what is happening in your community. Watch what is happening in your ministry, in the place that you work, and in the country. Pay attention to the numbers, because all these fanciful promises that are being made have to be paid for. I heard my colleague, Minister Diyal Singh, talking about the Point Fortin Hospital and making the point yet again that you go to build something without knowing where the money was coming from. And we've had to fix a lot of those things. Every time we borrow money, the opposition complains. But everybody who has tried to run a household knows you can only spend what comes in. And if what comes in does not match what you're spending, it's either the money lender or the bank you're going to go to. So we have managed. We've been managing. But we've been very clear in our plans. And at the heart of what we want to do has been making life in rural communities much better by an investment in infrastructure development, much of what you're seeing in your community. In relation to agriculture, I've been saying to the country, what is the sense of building a new road or improving an access road when the farmer does not have a title to the land? And it does not affect farmers alone, It affects everybody. When you think about me, you think about me as the Minister for Agriculture and agricultural land and farmers' land. Well, it affects residential people. It affects residential people, would you believe, from Matlot right down to St. Clair in Port of Spain. It affects institutions. I'll give you this example. Yesterday, after Senate finished at 4 p.m., I went over to the Arts Society in Federation Park. And I presented them with a letter indicating that Cabinet had approved the renewal of their lease. The Arts Society, located 5 minutes walk from where the minister responsible for lands has had an office for many years, has waited 29 years to have their lease renewed. 29 years. 29 years. And with the support of my colleagues in Cabinet and the Member of Parliament for that area, Stuart Young, we were able to present that land renewal letter 49 days after it was asked of me. And that is a challenge. It affects everybody. So while people talk about planting more and producing more and growing more, I am more concerned about where the more has to be planted in. And I'm very clear on behalf of the government that our number one priority in agriculture must be to grant leases to those whose leases have expired and to give tenure to the significant amount of farmers across the country, including this part of the country, who are very productive farmers on state land without title to their land. I want to talk to you about something that means a lot to people in Sangre Grande. And as I said at the start, you have to be here to understand the impact of it. But the word squatters is a bad word across the country. The word squatters is a bad word. But at some point, somebody has to confront the reality. And in this part of the country, the reality is this. We once had significant forest reserves in this area. And once the first person came up with the decision to build in a forest reserve, an influx over a period of time took place. And those persons on the state payroll with the responsibility to make sure that that squatting did not take place did nothing. And I will tell you where it is now. In 2,500 acres of forest reserve along the Valencia long stretch coming straight up to the Valencia Toco Road, there are 5,800 structures, close to 4,000 of them residential structures. And not one of those families. You spoke about 9-year-old Gabriel. Well, in those 4,000 residential structures, there are Gabriels and Jasons galore. School children, single mothers, parents working hard, with no chance ever of getting title to that land. And one simple thing had to be done. The state cannot grant a lease to a parcel of land that is forest reserve. And again, on the insistence, I have to say, of my colleague Rohan Sinanan, the MP, Glenda Jennings-Smith, and my friend Terry Rondon, the cabinet eventually took a decision earlier this year to de-reserve those areas in northeast Trinidad that have been squatted upon, so that the IDB, which for 25 years, Minister Robinson Regis, the IDB, which for 25 years has had funding available to us to finally settle these lives of these people, could do that because of legal restriction. And I took a cabinet note for the renewal of a residential lease in St. James. Forgetting. I don't want to use the Trini expression for it. I'll say the most observant MP and minister you'll ever encounter. Call him Imbert. And he saw the note and saw it was one of his constituents. And he said to me, Rambert, you don't like poor people, boy. And that is because if you have a 30-year residential lease for state land and it expires, the clock is reset. And it does not matter that you've been paying rent for 30 years. You now have, on the basis of a new valuation, to pay rent all over again. And in the case of many of the persons across the country who had a 30-year lease, many of them are in their late 60s and 70s. Many are pensioners now. And what Minister Imbert pointed out to me was that $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 payment to be made could not be afforded. And through the support of my colleagues in the cabinet, we took a decision where the current tenant of a parcel of state land for residential purposes was renewing the lease. The lease would be granted at 30% the market value. For persons in many parts of the country, that is a savings of $300,000 alone. And if the person wished to pay an annual rent, the rent will be calculated on the 30% value and not the 50% value. And to keep out those people who would come from nowhere and buy a parcel of state land from somebody who is occupying it, we inserted a clause there which says, if the land is being transferred, the full price must now be paid at that time. I want to close by talking quickly about access roads. When I came in September 2015 in my first budget, I said this to the country. In the weeks leading up to the 2015 election, the Estate Management and Business Development Company was caused to take out a loan for $400 million. That loan was used to develop 10 roads. Later on, I will find out, and the matter is in court, that not one road was built anywhere close to spec. Not one had the length, Not one had the width, not one had the thickness, not one had the base, not one had the side drains, not one had the culverts that were contracted for. And that left me and you with a bill which had to be paid over 4 years. And I told my colleagues in the opposition then, if I had that $400 million for access roads, I would have been able to do 2,000 kilometers of access roads. And it is only at the end of the last financial year that we paid the last final $100 million installment on that loan. Which leaves me now to go to the Minister of Finance and say to him, we must now embark on a new access road program which can be funded through borrowing because I do not have this $400 million loan to deal with. And much will be heard about those projects in the next few months, not by me, but the persons who are currently in courthouses around the country going through thousands and thousands of pages because we have not left what was done remaining as done. All those things had more work to do, and the government has been very diligent in dealing with that too. I thank you very much, Sangre Grande. I'm sorry if I upset you by asking you to stand behind Chaguanas as number 2. But as I declared at the start, I am just as much a son of Sangre Grande as I am of Mayaro and as I am of my beautiful community of Chaguanas East, where I'll do the business of our party next year, 2020. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Minister Ambarat. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, our featured speaker needs no introduction. His passion, commitment to infrastructure development, infrastructure services within communities is evident. When you're not seeing him, you can rest assured that he's on the ground getting things done. So without any further ado, I ask you to join me in welcoming Senator the Honorable Rohan Sinanan, Minister of Works and Transportation.
Wow. I now see what you were saying earlier. Cabinet colleagues, all. And we went through the protocol, so I'd recognize all my cabinet colleagues in one shot. Minister of Planning, Minister of Health, Minister of Agriculture, Minister of Rural Development, Minister of Tourism, Minister, you're the Minister in Sangre Grande today. Glenda Jennings-Smith, my favorite MP, and she's my favorite MP. No, I sleep in Valsade, I live in Sangre Grande. Glenda Jennings-Smith, and I know today is a very special day in Sangre Grande because this morning we had about 6 ministers in Mayaro. Minister Khan was up there, Senator Avinash Singh, and I think today the entire country would have shut down because all cabinet ministers are in Sangre Grande today. I compliment you all on that. Today is a significant day as we gather together today to launch 3 very significant initiatives that will catalyze and advance this area as a rapid development through the eastern quadrant of Trinidad. Sangre Grande is the largest town in Northeast. But how many of us here today are aware that this community came to exist in large part because of the advent of the railway station in 1897. Yes, Sangre Grande came in 1897. According to the renowned historian Michael Anthony in his book Towns and Villages, The signboard at the terminal read, Sangre Grande Railway Station. But the train, in fact, stopped at Kunapu. In fact, Sangre Grande village at that time was really where, higher up, going closer to Manzalina, Sangre Grande as it stands now was called Kunapu. But as human nature would have it, all of the activities, opportunities, and convenience centered and gravitated around the service of the train. And as the story goes, the old Sangre Grande died and Kunapu became the new Sangre Grande. The town we call Sangre Grande now was not Sangre Grande. It was Kunapu. And because of the train, Sangre Grande died. History does not repeat itself, as the popular maxim goes, but it certainly does rhyme. Therefore, the careful fashioning plan is not a place to place a train system in this area once again. Rather, the efforts of this government will be to lay down brand new infrastructure that is growing, enhancing, and will serve as a critical stimulant to economic activities from Sangre Grande all the way east to Toco. As Minister of Works and Transport, we remain faithful to the central government mission to create a gateway of opportunities in the east. With every passing day, it becomes clearer to see that we are getting it done. About 87 years ago, a gentleman by the name of Sinanan Maharaj was working on the Valencia Road. This was about 89 years ago. Unfortunately, a couple days before the road was completed, he passed away. That was 87 years ago. That is how long the Valencia stretch was built. I am happy today that I can take this fight to a new level. I was told that that gentleman, Mr. Sinanan Maharaj, was my grandfather. He was the superintendent in charge of the Valencia Road at that time. Work has indeed begun with the Churchill Roosevelt Highway extension to Manzalina. While the imminent focus of this project is to extend the highway to Sangre Grande, in the first instance, an upgrade of the roadway to Manzalina is still a definite plan that is sure to be implemented. However, in order to provide improved connectivity to the residents of Manzalina, there is also the project of improving the Eastern Main Road to give more immediate access further east. In getting it done, work will include road widening repairs, the failed slopes, and the reconstruction and extension of culverts and bridges as required. In other words, we are building a highway from Wallerfield to Sangre Grande. And what we are doing in the short term is to upgrade the existing Manzalina Road. We feel that will happen sooner rather than wait until the highway reaches to Manzalina. So what you will see happening shortly, just like the Valencia area, is an upgrade of the existing Manzalina Road. Widening the road, putting in shoulders, putting in lights, and straightening the road in those areas that we have steep corners. Earlier this year in March, to be exact, the Valencia to Toco Road was launched, and work continues assiduously to accomplish the 40-kilometer stretch that will bring more advancement and opportunities to all the communities heading east. Residents can also look forward to the massive infrastructure projects in the form of the embarking the Toco Port, a wise and much needed investment that will establish the new sea bridge to Tobago through the welcoming waters of Toco. Along with this port, the project will also include a 2-story inter-island ferry terminal building with viewing gallery that will provide accommodations for approximately 300 passengers in a waiting lounge. The upper level area for various merchants selling food and craft and other eating establishments are part of the plan as well. This facility will also contain a 2-story port authority building, cargo storage, which will require custom officers, security professionals, and handlers. A marine side facility that accommodates 5 ships, 100 meters in length, is also part of the vision, including a main marina, which will include space for 30 pleasure vessels. This project combined will transform Toco Bay, as we know it, into a great city with a renewed heart, soul, and spirit, with a capacity to provide long-term careers and sustainable financial opportunities for thousands of people and make the experience of East Trinidad more enjoyable for residents and visitors alike. However, to get there requires a well-built modern road with a capacity to move increased traffic in a steady, fluid, and safe manner between east and west. Of course, part of this, of getting it done in the east, is to create meaningful change. It requires that we implement some solid routes that will support the capacity of the infrastructure now underway. Today, we proudly launch the construction of the Guaico Licensing Office, which will provide motor vehicle license service in the Toco Sangre Grande district and the surrounding areas. Here, citizens will be able to renew their driver's permit, process applications for certified copies, and obtain taxi license and badges. One of the advantages of this site, this will be the 3rd site in Trinidad that we can do heavy T inspections. I don't know if you're aware, if a truck in Matlot or Toco wants to be inspected, they have to go to Port of Spain. Very soon, heavy trucks will be able to be inspected right here in Sangre Grande. I think that is a big plus for us. This way, residents will no longer have to commute all the way to Arima, Chaguanas, and Port of Spain to get simple services done. Full designs of this building were provided by the Ministry of Works and Transport. And ladies and gentlemen, it is important to know that everything you see here happening today is being done in-house. And just to give you a little example, this building was not on the drawing board 2 years ago. We decided that you had to have something like this in Sangre Grande. And I want to compliment the staff of the Ministry of Works who said, we can do it. We can do it. Some time ago, I saw a note which went to Cabinet for a similar project like this for Arima, to get the same services that we are offering here. The cost of that project was $140 million. We are building this building here using the technology, using the in-house service for $1.6 million. $1.6 million. And we will offer all the services that they were going to build that building in Arima for $140 million. You're going to get all that here in Sangre Grande for $1.6 million. As I mentioned earlier, the ministry will soon implement, as was mentioned earlier, a mobile bus unit. I don't think when Mr. Clark mentioned that we understand what he meant. What we are trying to do is to avoid people having to come to license office. Very soon, license office will be coming to you. So if people in any of the rural areas, this bus will earmark one day to go to different areas. And we are going to put something in place that you don't have to wait for your license permit to expire. If you know the bus is coming on a certain date and your license is going to expire in a month or 2, you can go to the bus on that day and get everything done. The only item you can't do through the bus will be to the driving test or to have your vehicles inspected. Every other service will be able to be conducted in this mobile setting. And I think that is what we're talking about when we talk about dealing with the rural areas. Ladies and gentlemen, another project that we are commissioning today is basically the traffic wardens in this area. In 2008-2009, the traffic wardens were conceptualized by Mr. Colum Imbert and I think it was Mr. Nylon Hippolyte. 2010, there was a change in government. And by 2011, the traffic wardens were launched in Trinidad. Sangre Grande was one of the areas that was earmarked to include traffic wardens. That never materialized. We're in 2019 now, and traffic wardens have finally come to Sangre Grande. When I inquired why the traffic wardens were not coming to Sangre Grande, they said that we couldn't get a building to rent. And my question to them is that if the Ministry of Works has so much land, so much buildings, why can't we take one of the ministry's buildings and put the traffic warden in? We came to Sangre Grande, we saw the building, we moved the traffic warden in, and tomorrow morning we will have 25 traffic wardens based in Sangre Grande. Again, at no cost to the taxpayers. And we were waiting for the last 8 years for a building to rent. And we had buildings just lying idle right here in Sangre Grande. Ladies and gentlemen, NITCO. NITCO is the procurement arm of the Ministry of Works. NITCO has 2 highways happening right now and a port in Sangre Grande. Most of the land that the highway have to pass through, a significant portion has to do with residents and some businesses. When I spoke to NITCO and when we came up on the consultation just about 2 months ago, they indicated that if anybody want to find out anything about NITCO, about their land, they have to come to El Sicuro. We felt as a government that wasn't good enough. Because you could imagine 300 people want information, 300 people have to go to NITCO in El Sicuro. Why can't NITCO come to Sangre Grande? We decided there and then that we will get a NITCO office. I remember speaking to the president, and I know she will chime me for saying this. She said, okay, we will look for a building to rent. And I said, a building to rent? And we have land in Sangre Grande. Today, we brought the NITCO office to Grande, again at no cost to the taxpayers. And when the Prime Minister and myself said that we have to do more with less, these are the things that we were talking about. What we were talking about is getting things done without burdening the taxpayers. Today is a very exciting day for us in Sangre Grande because today we launched 3 new offices without having to rent a building, doing everything in-house, transferring workers from one area to the next. And to me, that is a very proud moment for us as a government. Very soon, you will see an ad in the newspaper for the people of Sangre Grande where we'll be taking on another 100 traffic wardens. And I expect we will get some applications from Sangre Grande for those of you who are looking for employment in the traffic wardens. One area that I want to speak about, this government would have spent close to, or committed close to $8 billion in Sangre Grande. I don't know if you, the people of Sangre, understand that you got the chunk of the government infrastructure budget over the last 4 years. And the reason for that is because Dr. Rowley saw the need to develop the Eastern Seaboard. We decided to embark on these highways. Why we decided to do that? 50% of the landmass sits in 3 or 4 constituencies, but you have 5% of the labor. 5% of the businesses that are registered in Trinidad sits on 50% of the landmass. The Prime Minister felt that we need to develop this area. And because of the proposed roads and infrastructure that we have, this morning, I was very fortunate to go to Mayaro, where I witnessed the launch of an NP station on a project that when it's completed will be close to $1.25 billion. And this is a private developer investing money in Mayaro only because he saw the network of roads that was coming into the Eastern Seaboard. And that is what we were talking about when we said that if we put the infrastructure in Sangre Grande, if we put the infrastructure in the Eastern Seaboard, the private sector will come and invest. This morning, we went and turned the sod for the new gas station in Mayaro and a private sector who have decided to spend close to $250 million on a tourist development in Mayaro. We expect much more of that to come on this part of the island. What I want to ask you, the people in Sangre Grande, is to partner with us as we have that vision. My pledge to you is that nobody should have to leave Sangre Grande to go out of Sangre Grande for any service at all. Sangre Grande, this area serves about 150,000 people. Why it is we have to leave Sangre Grande, as the President of the Chamber say, to pay VAT. A simple thing like that. All the businesses have to go out of Sangre Grande to pay VAT. I commit to you that every service that is offered in Trinidad and Tobago should be found in Sangre Grande. But I need your support. There are a lot of people who feel that the Minister of Works doing nothing for Sangre Grande. You must correct that when you hear that statement. We have gotten the majority of the government spending in this area. And I know the Minister of Planning always look at me when I ask her for something more for Sangre Grande. She said, but you get everything already. The reason why we want so much in Sangre Grande is because for the last 50 years we got nothing. We got nothing. And a clear indication of that is the traffic wardens. When it was conceptualized, it was supposed to be in Sangre Grande first. 9 years, and I was still hearing that we can't find a building. Well, today, we claim our share of the traffic wardens. We told NIDCO we want them in Grande. We said we want a license office, and we have a license office. By April next year, we will have a new license office in Sangre Grande. And there are many, many more things coming to Sangre Grande. We are rehabilitating all the roads in Sangre Grande, all the bridges. We opened 4 bridges sometime earlier this year, and we have 4 more bridges on the drawing board about to be started. We have a lot of coastal projects in Sangre Grande. If you drive up to Mayaro, you'd see a new boardwalk. Technically, it was not designed as a boardwalk, but the people are using it as a boardwalk. What it is the coastal erosion on the east coast. We have started to protect that. We have started to protect that. And in terms of the rivers and so in Sangre Grande, if you look around, you'll see a lot of work being done in these rivers in Sangre Grande. The Prime Minister have mandated us that we have to open the eastern seaboard for commerce. And this is what we're doing here today. I am very proud to know that as a government, we could use the resources available to us, bring new services to Sangre Grande, and not burden the taxpayers with anything at all. So I want to thank all my colleagues who, from time to time, will give us the support whenever we ask for that. The Member of Parliament for this area, Ms. Glenda Jennings-Smith, she's in constant contact with me. And I have pledged to work with Glenda to make sure that all the citizens of the Eastern Seaboard, because Glenda is a representative for Toco Sangre Grande, but trust me, she fights a lot for the people of Komoto Manzalena and even the people of Mayaro. And for that, Glenda, I want to recognize your efforts because you really, Glenda would call me all hours of the night and say, make sure we get this, make sure we get that. I want to tell you that because of the drive from people like Glenda Jennings, Terry Rondon, they are really doing what they have to do for us. And I am sure the Ministry of Works will not disappoint you. We will give you the infrastructure. I know it's a bit late. You will hear from me. I am in Sangre Grande every day from now until the 2nd of December. So you will hear a lot more from me from the people of Sangre Grande. But I know many of you have to leave us now because you have a major walk to participate in. And I know some of the members of the cabinet are looking forward to work with you. So as we take some of the ministers to see the new license office, the POR, the NIDCO office, and the office of the traffic wardens. I want to, as Minister of Works and Transport and as a son of the soil, to thank everybody here. I personally want to do that for you all coming out today and for supporting us. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Sinanan, and we ask you to remain on stage for a presentation that is going to be made by the Chairman of the Sangre Grande Regional Corporation, Mr. Terry Rondon. Thank you. friends, Terry Rondon never fails to amuse and surprise us. Thank you so much, Mr. Rondon, for your presentation. And thank you, Mr. Minister, again. Thank you on behalf of the community of Sangre Grande for the government's efforts in bringing these services to the community. It will be welcomed. At this point, we are at the end of our program, but before we invite the very amiable and hardworking DPS to do the vote of thanks, we just want to recognize all the traffic wardens who are here with us this afternoon. If you could just stand where you are so we can recognize you. Mr. Protein, Randall Protein, Chief Traffic Warden, we ask you to stand so you can be recognized, sir. A round of applause for them. And we look forward to your hard work in this community. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, you may be seated. We now ask Ms. Danmati Ramdath, Deputy Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Works, to give us the vote of thanks. Can we welcome her?
Thank you, Donna. So I'm going to be very short because I know it has been a long evening. Hopefully, just 5 minutes. Senator, the Honorable Rohan Sinanan, Minister of Works and Transport. The Honorable Camille Robinson, Minister of Planning and Development. The Honorable Terence Dial Singh, Minister of Health. Senator, the Honorable Clarence Rambarat, Minister of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries. Senator, the Honorable Kazim Hussain, Minister of Rural Development and Local Government. The Honorable Randall Mitchell, Minister of Tourism. Mrs. Glenda Jennings Smith, Member of Parliament, Toco, Sangre Grande. Thank you. Deputy Permanent Secretaries. Mr. Terry Rondon, Chairman, Sangre Grande Regional Corporation, and all the councillors. Mr. Stephen Gardner, Deputy Chairman of NIDCO. Ms. Esther Farmer, President of NIDCO. Mr. Jabari Gozier, General Manager of NIDBEC. Mr. Ricardo Mohammed, President of the Sangre Grande Chamber of Commerce. Other members of the Sangre Grande Chamber of Commerce. Members of the Rotary Club of Sangre Grande. Colleagues of the Ministry of Works and Transport. Burgess of the constituency of Toco, Sangre Grande. Specially invited guests. Members of the media. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is my pleasure to extend sincere gratitude on behalf of the Ministry of Works and Transport to all of the individuals responsible for carrying out this massive undertaking. Your efforts served as the catalyst to the integral element that will enliven the eastern quadrant of Trinidad and open it up to socio-economic opportunities never before experienced. While a great deal of work has already transpired, today's launch of construction for the Guaico Licensing Office, the establishment of NIDCO's Community Outreach Center, and the establishment of the traffic warden's presence in this area for the first time is evidence that we are not just putting down road. Rather, we are establishing a system of transportation that will serve this community through improved connectivity, improved road safety, improved movement and traffic management, a transportation system that brings residents closer to vital services. At this juncture, I would like to make special mention of a few individuals and institutions who are integral into executing this mammoth project. I would like to first thank our hardworking and pioneering Minister of Works and Transport, Senator the Honorable Rohan Sinanan, for his unrelenting passion to change our nation through the provision of high-quality infrastructure across the country, and for the spearheading of government's plans to modernize the economic infrastructure in Sangre Grande and surrounding areas, inclusive of a new hospital as described by the Honorable Minister of Health. I also extend much thanks to NIDCO for continuing to partner with the MOWT by providing procurement and project management oversight on these various infrastructure improvement projects earmarked for this community. As you begin operations at this outreach center, I applaud your efforts in community involvement, closing the information gap for concerns residents as they experience the evolution of their community life as a result of the implementation of the various projects. I also thank the traffic wardens for your stellar performance as a unit, providing guidance on the roads and public education. Your presence makes a positive difference, and I am confident that the people of the area will soon realize that the great value of the traffic wardens they add to any community. I also acknowledge the efforts of the contractors who we have partnered with us to complete all of the works in progress. I would also like to extend special thanks to the residents who will be directly impacted by the construction works. The nation owes you a debt of gratitude. Thank you for partnering with us in enabling much needed development in your community. I thank the commuters of this area. I know that for the next few months you will be met with some inconvenience as construction moves ahead, but consider this as a short period of inconvenience. It's only a prelude to the birth of greater convenience, safety, and advancement for the entire country. Thank you to the Ministry of Works and Transport staff, in particular staff of the Maintenance Division, Construction and Mechanical Services Division, who were instrumental in getting all the facilities ready for the opening, in addition to all persons who organized this event for us and helped to make today's gathering one that was informative and enjoyable. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for attending today, and may God continue to bless this nation and keep you and us safe. Thank you.
Thank you, DPS Ramdad. At this time, we have come to the end of the formal proceedings, and we now invite the minister and the specially invited guests to proceed to witness
That was live coverage on TTT, Toco City 91.1 FM, and TTT Live Online on Facebook of the Sod Turning Ceremony to begin construction of the Guaico Licensing Office in Sangre Grande. Be sure to tune in to our various newscasts for stories coming out of today's Sod Turning Ceremony, and you can view more on TTT Live Online. I'm Mahalia Joseph Wharton. Do enjoy the rest of your afternoon.